In the golden dawn of the 15th century, one small nation stood at the edge of the known world, Portugal. A country no larger than most European provinces would rise to command oceans, rewrite trade routes, and quietly lay the financial foundations of global capitalism. What hidden force powered this unlikely empire? Stay with us, like and subscribe, as we uncover the secret order behind Portugal's maritime revolution, the shadow bankers, explorers, and knights who turned faith and finance into an empire. It began not with kings, but with an exiled brotherhood, the Knights Templar. After persecution by the Pope in the early 1300s, many of these warrior monks found refuge in Portugal. But they didn't come empty-handed. They brought gold, ships, and an advanced financial system that predated modern banking. Rebranded by King Denis as the Order of Christ, this secretive institution would quietly fund exploration, conquest, and commerce for centuries. They turned Portugal into a sanctuary of wealth and maritime ambition, a laboratory for the global economy. Through the Order of Christ, Portugal became the keeper of hidden knowledge, navigation, astronomy, cartography, and shipbuilding, all disciplines fused into financial strategy. Prince Henry the Navigator, a grand master of the order, didn't just explore, he invested. Each voyage was a venture, each map a contract. This was venture capitalism before the word existed. The profits were astronomical, the risks divine. Portugal's caravels didn't just carry explorers, they carried investors' dreams, Templar money, and the economic blueprint that would shape world trade for centuries. The Knights Templar were the original international bankers. Centuries before modern banks, they pioneered secure deposits, letters of credit, and complex financial networks spanning Europe and the Middle East. When they re-emerged in Portugal as the Order of Christ, this financial architecture became the backbone of maritime expansion. While kings dreamed of empire, the order managed the money. They financed fleets, minted coins, and collected interest from foreign merchants docking in Lisbon. Portugal's economy was not merely seafaring, it was banking at sea. From their fortified commanderies, the order plotted routes that would forever alter trade. Their archives contain secret maps showing winds, tides, and gold-laden coasts. These were not state secrets, they were financial assets. Each new route to India, Africa, or the Spice Islands was an investment in monopoly. The Portuguese crown, deeply indebted to the order, effectively became its public face. Behind every royal decree lay a silent ledger, balancing risk and reward. The empire was a corporation disguised as a kingdom. The 15th century saw Portugal rise from obscurity to dominance through what we might now call financial globalization. Their caravels sailed with purpose, each journey funded through syndicates of nobles, merchants, and the order's treasury. Lisbon transformed into a proto-Wall Street, buzzing with speculation about spice prices and foreign markets. Every discovery, from Goa to Macau, became a dividend. Every colony was a branch office. By 1500, Portugal had created a networked economy stretching from Brazil to Japan, fueled by debt, faith, and ambition. At the heart of this financial miracle was Prince Henry the Navigator. Often celebrated as an explorer, he was also a shrewd financier. Henry used Order of Christ funds to establish navigation schools, employ astronomers, and develop revolutionary ships. His voyages were joint ventures, a fusion of science, spirituality, and profit. He demanded not just gold, but knowledge, for knowledge was capital. Every chart, every current map, added value to Portugal's growing portfolio. He was less a sailor and more a CEO of discovery. Portugal's control of trade routes was not accidental, it was engineered through data and debt. Explorers like Vasco da Gama and Bartolomeu Dias weren't freelancers, they were financial instruments, their expeditions backed by investors and state guarantees. Spices from India yielded profits exceeding 6,000%. This was speculative finance centuries before stock exchanges. Each voyage was a high-stakes gamble, one storm away from bankruptcy, one discovery away from unimaginable fortune. The world's oceans became the stage for the first financial derivatives. With control of routes to India and the East Indies, Portugal cornered global trade. They taxed every passing ship, monopolized pepper and cinnamon, and flooded Europe with exotic goods. But behind the trade fleets stood ledgers, not swords. The Casa da India, Portugal's central trading house, functioned like a modern central bank, regulating prices, controlling supply, and issuing royal monopolies. It was the earliest form of state capitalism. Money, not armies, now decided the fate of nations. This financial web also brought immense inequality. The wealth concentrated in Lisbon was unprecedented, yet the people saw little of it. As Portugal's merchant elite grew rich, its citizens sank into poverty. The same financial system that built an empire also hollowed it from within. The order of Christ had become more banker than knight, its temples replaced by vaults, its prayers replaced by prophets. Debt, once a tool of discovery, was becoming a weapon of destruction. Portugal's empire, though vast, was fragile. Its prosperity relied on constant expansion, new lands, new debts, new markets. But expansion is a pyramid, and pyramids always collapse. By the mid-16th century, the Spanish crown eyed Portugal's riches, and Dutch merchants reverse-engineered their models. The once secret formula for global finance was now public knowledge. The same credit systems that fueled Portuguese ships now bankrolled their rivals. The empire's monopoly unraveled as debt chains snapped one by one. The Templar spirit of the Order of Christ persisted, but its wealth made it a target. Corruption spread. Gold from Africa and spices from Asia enriched the few while draining the many. Lisbon's markets glowed with jewels and silk, but its treasury darkened with debt. The Portuguese crown, overextended, began borrowing from foreign lenders. The bankers who once controlled the seas were now beholden to others. The age of exploration was ending, and the age of exploitation had begun. In a cruel twist of history, Portugal, the architect of global finance, became its first casualty. The empire that introduced debt as an instrument of growth would be destroyed by it. The costs of maintaining colonies, fleets, and defenses outstripped their returns. Loans ballooned, interest compounded, and the empire crumbled under its own financial weight. The Order of Christ, once divine financiers, faded into bureaucracy. Their ledgers told a story not of conquest, but of collapse. Yet their legacy endured. The methods Portugal pioneered, joint ventures, monopolies, credit-backed expansion, became the blueprint for all modern empires. The Dutch East India Company, the British Empire, and later the American corporations all borrowed from Portugal's maritime capitalism. Even today, the principles that guided Prince Henry's expeditions echo in multinational trade and global finance. The Templars' dream of uniting faith and money had evolved into the secular religion of profit. But the spiritual cost was immense. The order's original mission, to serve God through discipline and duty, was lost in the fog of commerce. The moral compass that once guided knights toward crusades now pointed toward gold. The same faith that financed discovery began to justify exploitation. Missionaries followed merchants, and salvation became an export commodity. The spiritual order of Christ had been replaced by the economic order of capital. Portugal's story is a warning as much as it is a legend. Every empire built on debt eventually pays its due. The Templars, rebranding into bankers, mirrored humanity's transformation, from seekers of meaning to seekers of money. The same ideals that once built cathedrals now built colonial offices. Exploration was no longer an act of courage, but of calculation. The seas that once symbolized wonder had become spreadsheets of profit and loss. Still, Portugal's brilliance cannot be denied. They turned geography into strategy, faith into finance, and discovery into currency. They mapped the world not for glory, but for control. Every port was a node in a global algorithm of trade. Every island was a ledger entry. When modern economists speak of globalization, they unknowingly speak Portuguese. It was in Lisbon's candlelit halls that global capitalism was truly born. The discovery of alternative routes to Asia bypassed the Islamic and Venetian monopolies that once dominated trade. This rerouted wealth toward the Atlantic powers and shifted the global balance of finance. The Silk Road became the Sea Road, and the Middle East lost its monopoly overnight. The new global economy had a maritime spine, and Portugal was its beating heart. The ocean had become the world's first digital network, fast, interconnected, and immensely profitable. But for every rise, there's a reckoning. When the 1755 Lisbon earthquake struck, destroying the city and its wealth, it symbolized the empire's moral and material decay. The catastrophe erased fortunes overnight, exposing how fragile the illusion of control truly was. Gold melted, Banks collapsed, and the once sacred city became a graveyard of ambition. In that moment, Portugal's long dance with destiny ended, not with war, but with debt and dust. Yet the order's spirit of secrecy and influence never truly died. Many of their symbols, crosses, compasses, and coded emblems, would reappear in European banking guilds and even Masonic traditions. Their philosophy of hidden power through financial control persisted across centuries. Some historians believe that remnants of their knowledge shaped the rise of modern banking families. Whether myth or truth, the connection between knights and capital remains one of history's most haunting threads. Portugal's rise and fall teach us that financial genius and moral blindness often share a table. The very system that made them pioneers also made them prisoners. They built the first global supply chain, but lost their soul to it. Their empire rose not by swords, but by signatures, contracts written in ink, sealed in gold. The same instruments that created wealth became instruments of bondage. Debt, once a tool of discovery, became the empire's invisible conqueror. In a world still governed by debt, Portugal's story feels prophetic. Every global crisis echoes their fall. Every economic boom mirrors their rise. The players change. Templars become bankers, kings become CEOs, but the script remains. Profit without principle is a circle that always closes in collapse. The order of Christ showed humanity the stars but forgot to look inward. Their ships found the world but lost their way home. From Lisbon's harbors to India's shores, from Templar vaults to corporate boardrooms, the pattern repeats. Innovation becomes greed, exploration becomes exploitation, expansion becomes debt. Portugal's history is not ancient, it's eternal. The same financial DNA flows through today's global economy. The same hunger for monopoly fuels new empires, digital or otherwise. As we marvel at our interconnected world, we might remember, it began with a brotherhood that turned belief into banking. Every empire builds cathedrals of confidence before the crash. Portugal's merchants once believed their gold would never run dry. Today, nations believe the same about credit. The difference is only scale. The Templars' ledgers have become servers, their ships have become algorithms. But the principle remains. The world still sails under the flag of debt. And like the caravels of old, it's heading toward uncharted waters. The Portuguese understood something profound, that money moves faster than armies. They used debt to conquer distance, trade to conquer time. But they also learned that no empire can outpace morality forever. The order of Christ began as a refuge for the faithful and ended as an engine of greed. It is the perfect parable for our age, a reminder that progress without purpose is merely conquest by another name. If Portugal's explorers sought the edges of the earth, its financiers sought the edges of wealth. But both found the same truth: the horizon always moves further away. The quest for profit never ends, it only transforms. The order's dream of universal connection became the world's economy, but at a cost humanity still pays. Their maps charted the seas, but not the soul. And yet, amidst the shadows of collapse, one lesson shines: knowledge, when used wisely, is the greatest treasure. Portugal's innovations in navigation, finance, and science changed the world. The tragedy lies not in their ambition, but in their blindness to balance. The true wealth of nations is not measured in gold or debt, but in wisdom, the ability to use power without being consumed by it. Today, as we navigate our own globalized era, dominated by invisible debts and digital empires, Portugal's history feels like a mirror. We too stand on the edge of discovery and collapse. The same questions remain: who controls the flow of wealth? Who writes the rules of trade? And what hidden orders, ancient or modern, still shape our world from the shadows? If the Knights Templar were the first bankers, then their successors are the architects of today's financial system. The tools have changed, but the mission persists: to control value by controlling movement. From caravels to credit cards, from papal seals to blockchain, humanity's quest for wealth remains a crusade. The flag may have changed, but the order remains. So as you close this chapter, remember, the true power of Portugal's empire was never in its ships, but in its ideas, the belief that debt could move mountains and faith could mint gold. History whispers that every empire built on credit must one day reconcile its books. Until then, like, subscribe, and keep watching, because the story of finance is not over. It's merely sailing into its next age of discovery.